The Zimbabwean government says it's now making plans to help Zimbabweans who are living in South Africa under the Zimbabwean Exemption permit to go home. At the moment, the permit program is due to end at the end of June. The Home Affairs Department says they think that around 180,000 people are living here under that permit. Other people have suggested that almost 1 million people could be affected by the decision because they have families and people have been living here for over a decade. The Zimbabwean ambassador to South Africa is Hamadziripi. Mr. Ambassador, sir, good afternoon to you and thank you very much indeed for your time. What plans are you making to help your citizens go home?
Good afternoon to you. Thank you for having me and greetings to your viewers. What we are doing is to try and get an idea of the number of Zimbabwe exemption permit holders who would wish to get some assistance or facilitation to return home before the expiry of the permit that, as we know, expires on the 30th of June. So today we have just launched an online platform registration so that those who would wish to express their desire to be assisted or facilitated to return to Zimbabwe at the expiry of the ZEP would be able to get that assistance. So at this point in time is to get as much information as we can about the numbers, about the profile of those individuals, about the needs that they would have and the specific assistance that they are asking for.
Do you have any idea of how many people you are expecting to go from South Africa to Zimbabwe at the end of June?
We do not have an idea because, as you are aware, clearly this is going to be an individual decision as to whether they want to continue staying in South Africa or they wish to go to Zimbabwe or they may wish to go elsewhere. So that is why we are launching this exercise so that we can have an idea as to how many numbers we may need to then assist or facilitate. So this facilitation or assistance would certainly take several forms, given the fact that among the ZEP holders themselves, there is quite a large divergence in terms of their positions. Some may require assistance with transport, others may just require facilitation in clearing their goods through the border post. Certainly at the border post, one of the things we'd like to do is to avoid congestion. So we'll also be asking individuals to give an indication of when they intend to leave South Africa, clearly hoping and expecting that they would be looking at leaving before the expiry of their permits on the 30th of June. That is for those who would not have acquired any other document that permits them to be in South Africa legally and regularly.
Once people go back to Zimbabwe, and they'll have lived here for a long time, are they going to be free to rebuild their lives again? They're going to be able to do what they want to do in Zimbabwe?
Well, look, certainly this decision and this exercise is going to be disruptive. That is very clear. But what the government of Zimbabwe is trying to do is to provide as soft a landing as is possible under the circumstances. Clearly, the expectations and the needs and requirements of the various ZEP holders are different. There are some who are going to be able to re-establish themselves back home. They may have businesses which they can relocate to Zimbabwe. That is just one thing. Starting their new life in Zimbabwe after these many years in South Africa clearly is going to be a challenge for some, and that is where we want to see how we can assist, at least as the government, to enable them to reintegrate and settle back home. We do certainly appreciate that there are huge challenges involved. There are certainly families who have children who are going to school. That is not going to be easy. In fact, uprooting school children who may be 4 or so months away from writing exams, going back to Zimbabwe with different education systems, certainly this is something that is very regrettable. But as a government, we will, of course, be engaging the South African government to see how best we can minimize those disruptions, particularly for those families who have school-going children or those children will be writing exams this year, metric exams, that is.
Many of the people under the ZEP have been out of Zimbabwe for about a decade. What kind of country are they going home to?
They're going back to a country which is seeking to develop, which is engaged in a lot of economic projects, and which has a vision of attaining an upper middle income status come 2030. So we do have, for instance, a lot of agricultural projects that are underway. We have infrastructural projects that are being carried out by the government. We have a variety of economic reforms that the government has introduced, all in an effort to really improve the economic environment, improve the well-being of our people. It's not that it hasn't any challenges, but which country doesn't have challenges? The most important thing is we do have policies, we do have measures that are in place to try and improve our economy, and we believe that in those efforts we may be able to offer opportunities to some of the people who will be returning back home to be able to make a decent living.
Are they going home to a free country, Mr. Ambassador? Is Zimbabwe a free country? Do people have freedom in that country?
Absolutely. People in Zimbabwe have freedom. Unless you are informing me that they don't have freedom, and I would wish to be educated as to which areas in which people are lacking freedom in Zimbabwe.
I would suggest that any opposition movement or any person who wishes to enter politics who is not a member of ZANU-PF does not have freedom in your your country. I mean, it's obvious. We all know that.
Well, I don't share that vision. You do have opposition members in parliament who do participate in the making of laws of the country. You do have newspapers which do not always write things that the government would want to hear, which are also, in fact, conveying very different viewpoints in the country. I think we need to move away from this stigma and this very general brushstroke which just presents Zimbabwe as a country where bad things happen. No, Zimbabwe is a country where good things are happening. It's a country where people are able to live and live like any other people throughout the world. We have our own system of government, which may be the same or different from others, but that doesn't make us unfree.
Mr. Ambassador, 2 weeks ago, members of an opposition movement had a meeting in a private home. Your police arrested them and beat them up. This is a meeting in a private home, sir. The simple act of journalism is not really tolerated in Zimbabwe. You arrest people for tweeting, Mr. Ambassador, tweeting. How do you define freedom?
Well, see, the truth of the matter is you do have laws and regulations in Zimbabwe, just as much as you have laws and regulations in other countries. And if indeed an individual is judged to have broken certain laws, then indeed, definitely the law will be applied. The incident that you are referring to, I'm not aware of it, so I'm not able to comment on it.
Well, Mr. Ambassador, let me put it to you in general terms. 25 people having a private meeting in a home, and then that home is raided by the police and people are beaten up. I mean, if that happened in South Africa, you wouldn't call us a free country. How can you call Zimbabwe a free country when people meeting in a private home are raided by the police?
Well, let me tell you something. I definitely do not go about characterizing or mischaracterizing a country or any other person. I do not think that it is for me to make such a judgment. So I do not engage in that.
David Hamadziripi, the Zimbabwean ambassador to South Africa, sir. I appreciate the time on Newsfeed. Thank you very much indeed.